Good afternoon, guys. We're going to give you a little walkthrough of a Hideout 29 DFS. We're going to start with the outside. We'll go around all the components on the outside, and then we'll move to the inside and go through everything and how you operate it. So starting at the front, you do have your ball mount hitching at the front here. There's other videos available that how to hook up your trailer and stuff, but for the most part your ball goes in here. This is your locking mechanism that goes and grabs the ball so it won't pop out, and there's a pin that goes through there to secure it. You've got your power cable that you hook into your tow vehicle plus your chains, and there's a breakaway wire in there as well. The breakaway wire, which is this one here, is just a small little cable. It connects to your tow vehicle, and if the trailer ever separated from your tow vehicle, that would get pulled apart, and it pulls a little pin in just underneath here that engages the electric brakes on the unit to stop it from rolling away. For that to operate, you have to have your battery charged to be able to operate those electric brakes. So you never want to travel without a battery on it because you're not traveling in a safe manner. So above that we have the power front jack. So this jack has a light on it for night light if you're ever hitching or unhitching at night, as well as up and down motion to make your hitching and unhitching and levelization of your unit a little easier. If you ever need to get inside and do a manual operation of this, there's a little handle inside the unit that you stick in here. You turn that off, stick it in there, and you can crank it manually if you ever get into a point where that motor isn't working for whatever reason or you have no power. Behind that we have the propane tanks. There's two 30-pound tanks on. Turn the little knob here to loosen it up, and you can access the tanks through here. Actually, these are two 20-pound tanks. So inside you've got your two tanks and your connecting hoses and switch. So if you want to run on one tank or the other, there's a little switch in here that you turn from one to the other side. You really want to only run one tank open at a time. If you do run both, it'll feed these propane systems with both all at the same time, and you'll drain both tanks and be out of propane. So we always say keep one closed, operate on one until it's empty, then make the switch over to the other one and then go refill that. Propane lines sometimes get a little air in them. So you sometimes have to purge that air by burning a little bit off on the range inside the unit, and just to make sure they're clear. And if sometimes if there's a little air in those lines, it won't like your furnace won't ignite right away, or your water heater won't ignite right away. So it's just something to think about there. Behind that we have a brand new fully charged battery, and again you always want to tow with a battery on. Without that battery and having a charge, it couldn't operate the brakes by itself if it needed to. So that's the front area. On every RV, some important maintenance to remember is every joint throughout the sides, along the trailer, along the roof, and on the side boxes are caulking. It's an RV style caulking, however it's just like caulking. It's a little more durable than household caulking, but it will over time dry out and crack and potentially open a gap. So you want to check your caulking, every 3 to 6 months for sure, doing your visual inspection of the unit, walking around checking it, and if it's ever dried out and looks like it may need to be replaced, you just peel it off, clean the area, and apply a new bead of caulking down. If you on a regular basis and making sure that your trailer should stay pretty well moisture free. So it's just something to remember as you go along. On the roof, the other big maintenance item on a trailer is the roof. The roof is a rubber membrane, and it's very pliable from as it comes out at the beginning, but over time it can dry out a bit and potentially crack and give you again another chance of moisture coming into the unit. So you want to do what we have as a cleaner and a conditioner. So it's a two-part thing. You can buy them in the parts store. You can buy them pretty much any RV place. It's a cleaner to clean the roof off with a scrub brush, a very light scrub brush, and then a conditioner to keep the rubber pliable and moving and be able to stretch and go with the unit. So just those two things. You do that at least every 6 months, and the caulking check on a regular basis. Then you should be good to go. Coming down the front here on this unit, we have a solar prep. So if you won't have a portable solar panel, you can hook it up and it'll do a trickle charge when the sun's out on the battery. So if you're doing a little dry camping, that would be a good thing to have to recharge your battery. Fall down the unit, we have a front compartment. This compartment goes right through to the other side. And there's lots of storage in here. Oops, it was already open. Open it now. And lots of storage in there. It goes right through. And the door on the other side is just a little bit bigger to be able to load a little bit bigger items in. But it's an area that gives you plenty of storage for traveling, or even just when you're in camping to put things away. Coming down a little farther, we have the first stabilizer jack. There's 4 stabilizer jacks, one in each corner of the unit. Now these have a cranking handle that will fit on here. That handle's inside the unit right now. You take it out, you clip it on there, and you crank that jack down to bring it down to the level of where it's going to start putting pressure on the unit. First put some, you don't want to put those right up the grass in the grass, so put some wood blocking or plastic blocking down. Then you bring that down and you snug it up. These are not designed to lift the trailer. Your trailer is going to sit on the tires in the front jack. These are just for stabilization. So you bring them to their start to get snug, and they're a little hard, and then you stop, and then you go inside and you'll feel that the trailer no longer has that rocking motion. Then you're in good shape. If you try and lift the trailer's weight on these, a couple of things will happen. One is that you're going to probably break the jack, which then you'd have to replace it, or 2, you're going to put a little bit of a bow in the actual frame of the unit, depending how long it is, and then things like doors will no longer close correctly, or they may jam a little bit because everything's not level anymore and the frame is being twisted. So again, these are just stabilization, so snug them down just to stop the motion of the unit, but don't put all the weight of the unit on them. Coming down a little farther on this particular unit, the 29 DFS, you've got your first outlet for your septic system. So this is one of the gray tanks. There's 2 gray tanks on board this. You'd hook your hose into here, which then puts into the septic bed, depending on where you're actually camping. And then you pull this lever out, and then it drains the gray water tank. Down at the back of this unit, you have another outlet for a second gray water tank and your black, which is your sewer system. So gray water is your sinks and showers, and your black water is your toilets. So they have 2 different holding tanks, and just to remember that you got to empty both of them. There's sensors on a panel inside that tells you how full they are, and that and when it's time to empty them. Now, even when you're connected to a septic system, so if you're coming away camping for the weekend, you got your hose all hooked up and ready, you still want to keep all these valves closed, because if you leave them open, you're going to let any of the gases from the septic system into the unit, and that can be a health concern. For that purpose, so you don't want to keep those valves open. Keep them closed, let the tank fill up, then when it's time to drain, you make sure you're hooked up, and then drain each tank. On the back one, where there's a black valve as well, we always say empty the black first and then flush all of that down with the gray. They're both dirty tanks in terms of a bit of a sewer, but again, the black is your toilet and the gray is the sink, so it's a little cleaner that way. So you flush it down through that process. On the first slide box here, there's a big one on this unit. Again, all that caulking, this is what I'm talking about along here and up at the top. You always want to be checking it, because it can become separated if it dries out, and then you're going to let water into that slide box, and then you're into some trouble trying to get that fixed. And so yeah, important just to keep that up. The other thing that, especially when a new trailer, the first few trips, you want to be very cautious to look at all this stuff, because it's the first time it's really going to move down the road through the twisting and everything, and these things can kind of maybe look like they're coming apart a little bit. It doesn't happen very often, but it can, and you just want to make sure that that's not going to cause you a problem. Okay, we're going to keep moving down this unit. This is your 50 amp power outlet, or inlet, I guess. This unit comes with a 50 amp cable. It connects into here. There's only one way to go in, and then you turn it. That cable then would hook up to your post at the campground, or into your house if you have the proper adapters. Now, we supply what's called a dog bone. It'll be this unit right here. This is a 50 to 30 dog bone. We don't have 50 amp service on our building here, so we're reducing it from 50 to 30. That's still going to run pretty much everything in your unit, even your air conditioner. So even on 30, you still got most of your capabilities. Obviously, if you can get a 50 amp site, go for it. But sometimes you show up, you think it's 50, and it's actually 30. So if you didn't have that adapter, you wouldn't be able to plug in. So we just supply them with every 50 amp trailer. Just finished my talk here on the sewer. So again, on the bottom here is your back septic system outlet, and you've got your gray heat tab here and your black on the other side. So again, you're going to have to connect two lines. So what you do is you'd have the hose from the front gray, and this hose will come into a Y adapter, and then one into the septic system itself. So depending on what kind of hosing you have now, you may need to think about buying a couple extra lengths and a Y adapter to make that work into down into one hose. Right here is your city water connection. So if you're at your house or your campground, you're ready to hook up the water with your hose, it just goes in there and this device here turns itself around and connects. Now this is a plastic fitting. It's not meant to be tightened to anything more than a hand tighten. So you want to put your hose in and then snug it down until there's no dripping, and then you're good to go. If you start trying to use pliers and stuff, you could easily break that, and then you'd have to replace the whole unit. Gonna keep moving back around the side and the back. On the back of this unit is where your hot water heater is. To access your water heater, you flip this little tab up, turn it to the side, and then slide the metal through. So you have electric and you have propane on this water heater. You can run individually on either one, or you can run it together at the same time. This one's out here to show you that this is an anode rod. This is what this plug is. So that in your unit, that rod is taking all the corrosion away from corroding the tank. So that gets corroded, and over time, over a year or two, that will completely dissolve itself, and you'll have to replace that to protect your tank. But they're easily bought. You just buy it like this from the parts store, and then they go in like that. That back on, and again you just turn it and flip it down, and that's secure. You have an outside shower on this unit. It's a handheld hose and nozzle. Use your key to open, and in here you'll see that there's a nozzle with hot and cold running water. Obviously your hot water tank would have to be running and heating the water, but once you've got that, you have that full capacity and capability, and then you can wash off anything that you don't want to bring in, like the dog or the kids, to try to minimize any kind of tracking in of dirt into your unit. Lock that one. You've got rear brake lights, indicators, turn signal indicators, and you've got the driving lights at the top. This unit does have an adapter on the back here for a backup camera. We sell them in the parts store. They're just pretty much plug and play. Take that plate off, put the camera on, and then there's a little screen that wirelessly connects to it that you put on your dash of your truck. They work really well, especially when you're trying to back up, and even when you're driving. To know what's behind you is always a good safety feature. Okay, camp kitchen. Again, use your key to unlock it. See if it's unlocked. Oh, it wasn't at this point. We unlock, flip up, connect little holders there. And in this kitchen you've got a little mini fridge. Runs on only when you're plugged in. This does not run on your battery. And then you have your propane cooktop. So that slides out. You flip it up. You've got your burners. You ignite them with a lighter, and then you've got your propane line, which is right here. You drop that behind and down into a little quick connect on the bottom. That is right there. So you pull that out, a little quick connect goes in there, and you can run your propane into your burner there. Put that back in place. Go down. Lock it. Okay, keeping moving down the unit. This is your main entrance. You do have two doors in this unit. One is in the bedroom and one in the main. This main entrance has these new style stairs, which are really stable and really great. People seem to love them. You have adjustable bases, so you just push this pin out here, and then you can slide that to keep them level. The good thing about them is the stability. They're little, like if you're used to the regular steps like you have on the front here, they're great, but these are a little more stable, especially if you have young kids and stuff, then they're not bouncing around and they stay like that. Couple things to point out though, with them is that if this top part here needs to be below the bottom of the door, so that means that you got to make sure that where they're touching the ground, it's down high below. If you have them up anyway, when you try and shut your door, you're going to bang the bottom of that door and damage it. So it's something to remember there. The other thing to point out here is that everything that's on these stairs, any water, dirt, when they go to collapse in, that all goes in your unit. So now everything drops on the floor. So we do recommend you just take a hose, rinse them off to get all the mud and everything that might happen to be on them, and then dry them off before you put them in. You'll just save your time when you get home and you realize that you've tracked all that, you haven't tracked all that gravel and dirt into your unit and you have to clean it again. But in the water as well. So that's your main door. On this particular 29 DFS, it came with the option of an outside fireplace. So open that up and you've got a fireplace. It's all operated through here. You can turn it on for light, you can turn it on for fan, heat, depending on what you want. So there's a bunch of different settings for that. It's kind of a neat feature if you put your awning out at night and you want to just sit underneath it with a little little electric fireplace going. It's kind of neat that way. If you ever wanted to put an outside TV, if you have a little table or something, this is your outlet for it. So if you're running cable through the RV, that would be the outlet. You just plug it in there and that goes into your TV. Then there's the plug to run it or any other devices. Now you have to be plugged into power for that. Again, all those plugs aren't running off the battery. The battery doesn't have enough charge for that. This is the backside of your fridge. This lets in cool air in and hot air out. It also lets any moisture drip through here. So the side of your fridge is sort of, that's how you access it and that's how it runs. Specifically if it's running on propane. You potentially sometimes see a little bit of a moisture run off of this, and that's normal, a slow drip or a slow run, because there is condensation on the backside of your fridge. So that would be normal. Your furnace outlet is right here. So inlet outlet for cooling this or running the air through it to burn. That turns that the propane turns that into hot air, which then runs through the system on the inside to heat the unit up. Watch these holes here. We don't typically run furnaces in our climate much through the summer months, but then when we get into the fall, you're going to need your heat and you're going to run it. So just make sure that those are free. There's no debris or wasp nest or anything in there. It can be a fire hazard if there is. This unit also comes with a onboard freshwater storage. So you just turn the cap and pull it off. Now you take your hose, just feed it into there. There's no way to secure that because it's a tank. It's not meant for your city water. So you fill it up until it runs out, tighten it down, and then you've got a full tank of water. To access the water in that, you need to run your electric water pump on the inside, and that can run off the battery as well. But so that all the pump does is pressurize it, takes the water here, pressurizes the plumbing in the system, and then you could have running water in the unit out of that tank. A couple of things to think about is that it is fresh water that does go through your tap. So if you're brushing your teeth and stuff, if you're going to use that tank, that's going to be consumed by you. So you want to make sure that's clean. So don't leave water in there to get stagnant. Replace it if you're going to use it. Replace it with fresh water on a regular basis. Make sure it's clean, and you should be good to go. If you're going to hook water up to the city water connection we showed on the other side, you don't need to have any water in this tank. The pressure from the post running into that connection will pressurize the water system, and you won't need to run your electric water pump either. So if you're using the water tank onboard storage, you need fresh clean water and to run the actual water pump. If you're going to use city water connection, all you need is the hose connected properly and water coming from the post into there, and then that takes care of itself. You don't need to run the water pump at that point. And again, you have two doors. So you have your front door and this one which has the steps that fold down like this, like the traditional ones, and then so they're down when you're camping, and then up when you're ready to travel. And then you have the other side of your front compartment here, which is a little bigger door to be able to put bigger stuff into it. So that's the outside of the 29 DFS. We're just going to now move into the inside. Welcome to the inside, guys. Now it's time to kind of go through all the different options and features on the inside. We'll start here on this left side with the kitchen. You've got a nice countertop with a cover over the sink with a stainless steel farm style sink. Lights under here, which are operated manually with just a push button, and you've got under light storage. I don't know if that shows up in the camera, but there is storage, or under counter lighting. Sorry, that runs along there. It's kind of nice at night. Right here is your onboard central vac. So under your bed you'll find a hose that you stick in. The hose will go in there, and that's your vacuum. You run it by switching it on and off. And it has quite good suction. To get access to the bag to replace them, push that to the left, pull that out, and then you've got your bag in here. So before you use it for the first time, just make sure you've connected that bag correctly, and then you're good to go. When they fill, they are replaceable bags, so you can sell them, or we sell them in the parts store, and they're easy to put back in. So again, keep that. That's your inlet. Otherwise, go through that way. This is your gas detector on the floor. So if you ever have a propane leak in the unit, or any sort of carbon monoxide kind of stuff, that will ring and alert you that there's a problem. So if that goes off, or even if your smoke detectors go off in the unit, the first thing is to get everybody out of the unit. So don't worry about what's going on, just everybody out, and leave the door open, and then figure out what's happening, because it could be a gas leak, and you may or may not smell that. So you got to make sure you get everybody out before it does some harm. So moving back along the kitchen, we have the cooktop and oven. So this has a glass cover, which gives you that counter space. So you can actually use it when it's down. To access it, you flip it up and back, and then you have 3 burners, 1, 2, 3. To start burner, so if I want this burner to come on, you're going to put to the flame, which is the starting flame, and then you can turn this, and then you'll see that comes on and ignites. And then we will turn it off to turn that off. So that's all there is to it. When you do click this, all 3 burners plus the oven inside has a spark. So no matter what burner or oven you're trying to start, you need to use this as your sparker to get it going. To run the oven, it's just the same style. So you flip it over to gas, and then you ignite this. Make sure that it lights by doing a quick inspection of it, and then set the temperature you want, and then you're good to go. When you're done, you just turn it to off. This also has some lights, so it has inside light and then lighting on here. So again, it's another thing you could run it at night and gives you a little bit of ambient light that you don't need to have all the lights on. So it's a bit of a nice feature that way. Put everything back down. Above it, you have your fan to do exhaust when you're cooking, and a light over there. Again, you have to be plugged in for that light to function, as well as the fan, and that exhaust to the outside. And then you have your residential style microwave above that, which operates just pretty much like any microwave. Moving down the wall here, we have the fridge. So nice big size fridge, lots of freezer space and fridge space. The operation of this is you can either run on electric or propane. To turn the fridge on, you use this button. So on will be there. If I want to run on gas, then that button goes out, and then it'll try and ignite off the gas system. If it can't ignite, potentially there's either air in the lines that you got to find a way to purge out, or you have to you're out of propane and you have to replace your tanks and get more propane. We just recommend that you push this to in, because in is auto. It will try and default to electric. So if you're plugged in somewhere, it'll run on the electric, and then if you're going to run on the gas, you're no longer on electric, it'll move and turn and try and switch on to gas. So we just say just leave it on. And so when you're camping and plugged in, it'll go to electric, and then if you want to keep everything cool while you're driving, keep that in, and then keep the propane tanks open, or one of them open, and then it'll run while you're traveling to keep everything cool. So, and then off again. The actual temperature of the fridge itself and freezer sort of at the same time is controlled by the thermostat right here. It's just a plastic sliding device with a sensor in it. So there's a little warmer, cooler sticker here. So if you want the fridge a little warmer, you slide this down. If you want it to be a little cooler, you slide it up. So we usually say, start around the middle and see where you're at. and then adjust accordingly depending on what the temperature is you want. Next to that, we have the entertainment area. So big 55, I think, TV with the stereo below it for DVDs, and it's all hooked up and wired into the speaker system. You've got speakers on this inside unit as one zone, and you have speakers on the outside of the unit as a different zone. You can run them independently in terms of you can run the speakers in here and not outside, or you can have them on outside and not in here, or together. So you have some options there. Below that, you've got another second fireplace. The buttons to operate are down here, just like the same as the outside, and then you have some settings around what kind of heat you want, what kind of temperature, the fan speed, and then you have some dimmer settings to change how bright this is, are all in there. And then one big feature about this unit is this whole wall is movable and actually hides another area for storage. So if I open that up, you see all this extra storage in behind for whatever you need to put up there, but it's just a great feature they designed. It is on a roller, so when you are going to move that wall out, you want to make sure the floor is clean and there's nothing, no rocks or anything, because if that wheel catches a rock, it potentially could tear your floor. The other great feature is that you can open this wall straight up all the way over, and it can be facing the bunk bed, so the kids can be in bed watching TV and you can be in here doing something else or entertaining with other guests or whatever. So it's kind of a neat feature for that. And all you do is slide it back. It's actually connected through a magnet right here, so you'll hear the click, and now it's secure. The other thing in the kitchen side is this is where your fuse panel is. So open it up, and you've got all these switches or fuses here, and then you've got the actual push pin fuses. So on your breakers, if you ever, sometimes you may run too much power, run in the toaster and a hairdryer or something, and it might be say, okay, that's too much, and it might flip one of these and break the circuit. So, you just come in and flip them back up. If you continue to break them, then we potentially have some sort of electrical connection problem that have to be investigated. The same with these. These are all your fuses for the different things in the unit. They do burn out over time, so that you will replace these once in a while. But if you're continually replacing one, then maybe there's an issue that needs to be looked at. If any of these go out, there's an LED light that will light up beside it to tell you which one it is, and you can see that through here when it does light up and say there's a fuse burnout. Moving down a little farther, we come to one of the other main areas of running the unit. You've got your heating and cooling controls here. So it's temperature driven, so you have a thermostat here, you can set the temperature you want, and then you have your settings of heat all the way to the right, off, fan, or cool. So if I want heat, I would switch it to heat, set the temperature I want, and then you can change the fan to run on auto or high or low, so it depends on what you want it to be. We typically just say just run it on auto because then it'll control itself, but you can run the fan by itself independently. If I just want to have a little fan, bring some fresh air into the unit and move some circulate, I just switch it to fan. It doesn't run on the thermostat, it just runs fan, and then it'll turn on, and depending on what setting you've got, it'll just run. Then on the other side, if you want to put the AC on, switch all the way to the left for the AC, and then it runs again off of the thermostat. So set your temperature and it'll bring the temperature down to there, and then you have your fan setting. I think the other thing to remember here is that it is a trailer, so when it does get hot in the summertime, you're going to try and run cool. It might get you down to say 68 or something, which is very comfortable. Trying to reach below 60 is almost unachievable, so don't expect it to be as cold as that. So that's how you operate that. Moving around to the other side is your panel. So you've got your levels here. So if I want to know what my charge of my battery is, you press the one for battery and you'll see that it lights up to full. If I want to see if there's any water in my fresh tank, you click that, and right now it's on E. So if you had water, it would light up to above there. And then again, the same with you've got your black and your gray tanks, so you just check them for there. When they do get up to this 2/3 to full on those tanks, those black and gray, that's when you're ready to actually empty them. Below that, you've got your water heater. So if I want to run it on propane, I switch that on. It will then try and ignite on propane. If there's no propane in the lines and it can't ignite, you will get a fault that says that. That's saying that right now because we just turned it on and it's going through its cycle to start up. So that, but if it doesn't start, you'll see that that comes back on, and it means you probably have a propane problem, like you don't have the tank on or you're out. So I'll switch that off. If I want to run electric, you can do it with that switch. Always make sure there's water in your propane tank before you actually switch any of these on, because if they try and light up, especially the electric one, without any water in that system, you're going to burn out the tank and have to be replaced. So just make sure that you've got water in it before you turn those on. When we talked about the fresh water tank and the city water connection, so this is the water pump I was referring to. You just switch it on and you'll hear a little whirring for it to start pressurizing the system. Only run that when you have fresh water in the tank. Otherwise, you can burn that pump out. So if you're going to run on the fresh water tank, switch that on and it'll pressurize water through the system. If you're on city water connection, you don't need to have that running. So this is a switch for some interior lights, and then you have your awning light here. We didn't really go over the awning outside, but we'll talk about it now. So there's an LED light strip under that awning that is really nice lighting at night to use. So you turn it on using that. When you are ready to extend or retract the awning, this is your switch. So the extend is that down, and if you want to pull it back, it's up to there. Just a point on the awnings, they are really just made for sunshade. When it rains or any kind of wind can damage them, they're not made for that. So just be careful when you have it out, if it's too windy or if it's raining. Make sure that it's not going to get damaged, and then don't leave your unit for any real period of time with your awning out, because you don't know if you get a windstorm while you're away and it completely tear your awning up. Slide room, so we have one slide on this, which is in the kitchen with the dinette and the couch. So if I want to run the slide in, it's up, and then the unit will start pulling that slide in and then out to push the slide back out. You always want to run your slide all the way out or all the way in. Don't leave it in a half place because it doesn't seal itself correctly if it's halfway in or halfway out. So just run it all the way out or all the way in. And then you've got another switch for interior lights there. So that's your panel and how to run pretty much everything else on the unit. At the back you've got two big bunk beds, and under here you've got some pretty good storage as well as access to your water heater. So if you can see in there, that's the back side of your water heater. So when it's time to do your winterization, that's where you'd look to be doing the access to it. But other than that, there's a lot of storage in that area. The bathroom in here, it's a nice big bathroom with a sink and a mirror. Again, you run your pressurized water either through your water connection or your fresh water tank to get water to your tap and your toilet. The toilet is a foot mounted control, so when you're done, you just push it down and it empties into the black water tank. A little more storage here. And then we come down this side, which we referred to the slide box before. So this whole area here is on the slide. You've got a couch that pulls out or folds into a bed. Then you've got a dinette with a collapsible table, which again makes it into a bed at that point. And then you've got storage under here. And then if you want to access storage on this side, pull this up, and then you'll be able to pull in and access that storage there. The lighting for the slide is on the wall right here, and then these blinds are just pull down or push up, so they're self-holding. And then the last room is the bedroom, the master bedroom. So nice big walk-around bed, storage under here, and so you've got your spare tire, and then you'll see your hose in there, which is the vacuum hose. So that's where you put it. And then you've got lighting over the bed, which is manually used there. And again, lighting up here, which is turn off like that. And then storage around the bed itself. So that is the walkthrough of the 29 DFS. If you have any questions, just give us a call.